something to George Bailey. Help him, dear Father. Joseph, Jesus, and Mary, help my friend, Mr. Bailey.
Help my son George tonight.
He never thinks about himself, God. That's why he's in trouble.
George is a good guy. Give him a break, God.
I love him, dear Lord. Watch over him tonight.
Please, God, something's the matter with Daddy. Please bring Daddy back.
Merry Christmas, everyone. And yeah, the best movie of all time. Oh, just my opinion. But welcome to Freedom Project's annual Christmas special. I'm David Fiorazo. This is one of my favorite traditions of the year, and I'm truly thrilled to share this time with you and your family. So today, we're celebrating a film that has captured hearts for almost 80 years. A movie filled with hope, gratitude, and the reminder that every life touches so many others. Of course, I'm talking about the timeless classic, It's a Wonderful Life. Now, when it was released back in December of 1946, believe it or not, the movie was hardly a success at the box office. It wasn't until the late 1970s when the copyright lapsed and TV networks began airing it freely and often that families across America discovered the magic of this film. And once they did, it became an instant beloved classic, a Christmas tradition in homes everywhere. So the movie stars James Stewart and Donna Reed. This film continues to inspire generation after generation with its simple, beautiful message about the value of every human life. So there's so much to talk about, and I'm grateful not to be doing it alone. I'm joined by my two dear friends, Dr. Duke Pesta and Dr. Jake Jacobs, as we revisit the wonder, the heart, and the lasting impact of one of the greatest movies ever made, It's a Wonderful Life. Gentlemen, welcome and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
All right, so I'll share my story after I hear from both of you of when I first watched the movie or heard about it. How about you, Jake? We'll start with you. I know you love the film. Any history in the Jacobs household about watching this?
It would have been probably around the early 70s, and my dad being a World War II veteran coming home in early 1946, he made a point of us watching it because he knew the history behind Jimmy Stewart being a World War II fighter pilot captain on a B-24.
A lot of people don't know that.
He was a real deal coming home, and he thought he would never, ever be able to act again because he was kind of in a severe depression at the time. But the point is, my father made a point of us watching it, and I fell in love from the first time I ever saw it.
Awesome. How about you, Duke?
You know, it's funny. I never watched the movie from beginning to end until maybe just a couple of years ago. When I was young, it was always on, off and on, and I would see parts of it, and I always got into it, but for some reason I couldn't finish it or something happened, and I always was intrigued by it. It wasn't until I finally watched it from beginning to end that I realized that all the pieces are wonderful, but when you see it from beginning to end, you really get the whole feeling.
Yeah. I mean, in the 70s, I probably saw bits, like parts of it, but especially if you tune in when the stars are talking, you know, it's like, what is this? Turn the channel if you happen to catch that. But it was probably 1981 or 82 when I saw the whole thing all the way through, and my goodness, it was just really a not heartbreaker, but it was very touching. And if you get the whole picture of the whole film, it was really amazing. A lot of messages in it. Go ahead.
But no, I just think it's interesting because most people will say it's the greatest Christmas film, but in your heart, you said it's the greatest film. That says a lot. I mean,
I would put it on my top 10 all time.
All time.
That's just me. I'm a little sentimental. I love Christmas. I love snow, which I know I'm probably in the minority there with people up north or in the Midwest.
Are you sure you're Italian?
That I love the snow. Yes, absolutely. So let's just get into the clips now. There's so many clips we want to get to, and I don't want to run out of time. So let's go to the first clip, and we'll talk about it after we play.
What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary.
I'll take it. Then what?
Well, then you could swallow it. And it'd all dissolve, see? And the moonbeams would shoot out of your fingers and your toes and the ends of your hair. Am I talking too much?
Yes. Why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death?
How's that?
Why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death?
Why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death? That's a classic line. But you know what? Later in the film, when he didn't get out of Bedford Falls and he comes home dejected and he sees that picture
that she made
George
of it?
Lasso's The Moon.
Yes.
Remember he goes, when he first goes over to her house, some
Yes.
joke, huh? Like he never was able to do a lot. What are your thoughts about that? Or even about the clip we just played?
Well, first of all, I love the language. I mean, you can tell the guy he's smitten, and she starts to realize maybe I'm winning him over.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is a classic scene.
Yeah.
For me, Capra is the Norman Rockwell of film, and all these clips. And I told you at the beginning, I saw clips first, and every clip I managed to see before I watched the whole movie was like something out of the Sunday Review with his pictures. Right, Rockwell. Pure Americana. Yeah. He's got the old-fashioned football jersey on and the moon's shining, and everything that Capra does in this movie, and many of his other movies, by the way, is just take a frame out of Americanism life, right? If you were going to be stereotypically talking about Americanism, you just watch his movies, and you would see it all.
That's very interesting because Capra was a Sicilian immigrant. They came to this country in 1903. They were living in abject poverty in Sicily. And he tells the story that his father, when he saw the Statue of Liberty, when they came into the harbor in New York, he was jumping up and down and saying to his son, he was calling him Cieco, which is Italian short for Francesco or Frank, right? He'd go, Cieco, Cieco. That is the greatest light since the light over Bethlehem. And the point is, Capra came from this real traditional Catholic family, and you talk about Rockwell. He wanted to bring Americana. He loved this country. The Liberty Bell was the symbol for the actual company, his film company,
Liberty
for
Films.
this film. And even classics like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, starring Jimmy Stewart, an absolute classic from 1939, the beginning of World War II, really showed exactly what Dr. Duke was talking about, the Americana, the Rockwell aspect of it.
And he wasn't afraid to put potentially offensive lines or quotes, like Potter calling Italians a bunch of garlic eaters.
Yes.
Things like that. By the way, the outfit that they were with, the football uniform, Stewart didn't look like a football player, but that's after they jumped into the pool when the floor opened up and then they got all wet, and so they needed clothes to walk home.
By the way, but Jimmy, real quick, Jimmy always had a problem. Jimmy Stewart had a problem with putting on weight. To get into the military, to get into the Air Force, Army Air Force, he had to drink a bunch of protein shakes and eat a whole bunch because he was always struggling with his weight.
Wow. How tall was he?
Oh, I think about 6'4", 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
Oh, lanky. All right, next clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Then came a war. Ma Bailey and Mrs. Hatch joined the Red Cross and sewed. Mary had 2 more babies, but still found time to run the USO. Sam Wainwright made a fortune in plastic hoods for planes. Potter became head of the draft board.
1A. 1A. 1A.
Gower and Uncle Billy sold war bonds. Bert the cop was wounded in North Africa, got the Silver Star. Ernie the taxi driver parachuted into France. Marty helped capture the Remagen Bridge. Harry Bailey topped them all. A Navy flyer, he shot down 15 planes, 2 of them as they were about to crash into a transport full of soldiers.
Yes, but George.
George? 4F on account of his ear. George fought the Battle of Bedford Falls.
Hold on now. Don't you know there's a war on?
And again, a lot of people don't realize that Jimmy Stewart was in the war as an actor. He was an actor, and then he enlisted, went to war, came back, and I think this It's a Wonderful Life was the first film he did. About any of the war background and history, Duke, you'd like to talk about from that clip?
Well, it's really interesting to me that in today's culture, to not going to the war would be a big strike against you. And have the main character not being able to go and kind of breezily talking about how he couldn't make it because of his hearing. It's interesting how culture changes. He's the hero of the story. He's the most humane person here, while almost all the other young men are off to war, which is kind of an odd thing when you think about it today.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to note that, like I said when we introduced the film, the war was fresh. My father had just come home from the war when they were actually producing the film. And so that film footage you're seeing is very fresh film footage about World War II. And for being such a classic, it was not a big hit when it came out. And it lost money. Liberty Films lost money. Frank Capra suffered for it financially.
I think I understand one of the reasons why. This is a classic fairy tale. That's why all the stereotypes live in them. And we can watch the show and not be offended by the stereotypes because the framing is fairy tale, right? Even the garlic eater comments, some of the things to a modern audience would be racist or whatever, sexist. It works because the story itself is supernatural, right? It is exactly what you would expect from a fairy tale, transformational, people being transformed. And I think that's the charm of it. And it's also why I think it may not have done as well initially, because fairy tales are often conceived as children's stories. And I think that might have something to do with it.
If I can add on to that.
Absolutely.
One of the disappointments by the audiences, they had just gone through the Great Depression and World War II. A lot of the young men didn't come home, or they came home with severe psychological problems. The title says It's a Wonderful Life. Well, if you have a man who's going through serious depression, talking about suicide, they even took a couple of the scenes out of there where he was writing a suicide note that never got into the film because the censors at the time said this is too dark, too black. So people thought that it was going to be a very uplifting film, and it wasn't in many ways. But you have to admit, he's cranky, he's mad at his kids, he's going to commit suicide. I mean, literally, and people did not want that.
And that's another facet of fairy tales. Real fairy tales start with tragedy and suffering, right? It's always the death of Bambi's daughter, a child. The idea that real fairy tales start in tragedy and then it's overcome. So I think those two comments fit together nicely.
Yep, absolutely. So the title, for someone that has never seen it, it's not an uplifting, joyful movie about Christmas. It deals with very serious issues throughout, I think, and especially when he goes through the life of him not being born and seeing how life would have been with the girls dancing in the bars in our strip club downtown as opposed to pure Bedford Falls. Anyway, let's move on to the next clip, and we'll come back and talk about it.
8,000.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter. Merry Christmas.
Well, good morning, Mr. Potter. What's the news?
Oh, well, Harry Bailey wins Congressional Medal.
After all, Potter, some people like George had to stay at home. Not every heel was in Germany and Japan.
Where's that money, you silly, stupid old fool? Where's that money? You realize what this means? It means bankruptcy and scandal and prison. That's what it means. One of us is going to jail. Well, it's not going to be me.
This is a very heavy part in the movie. $8,000 at that time in today's cash.
What, about 150, 200,000 somewhere in there.
So while we're talking about that, a little bit later, he goes in to Potter for help. Potter calls him in the office, actually before that. Potter offers him a job of, was it
$20,000, which was almost $500,000 back then.
So in today's market,
if we equated it, yes. So that was a big chunk of money.
And he turned it down. For those of you that don't know the movie, he turned it down because Potter was known as a very evil, corrupt, greedy man.
Well, his character is a man who can't be bought. And that's, as we saw in the one where he went to Washington.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
In fact, his whole career, he made a career of being a man who could not be bought. And that has followed him from the beginning to the end. Yeah, very good.
What I found interesting was that Potter never gave the money back. I thought, man, how dark and greedy and just evil that is to almost, he knew if friends didn't come through for him, friends and family, and give money, he would have gone to jail.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there actually was a scene that was not put in the movie where they actually, the people found out who took the money and they turn on Potter. But I think they thought it was so bleak, so dark, they cut it out of the film. Seriously.
But that goes along
Saturday
with the rest
Night
of the
Live actually did a spoof on that very thing where the townspeople beat up Potter.
I mean, it's the American Scrooge, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Who's not transformed, though, like Scrooge is.
Yeah. I found that to be very interesting, but another lesson from that clip we just played where Uncle Billy loses the money, Uncle Billy's had a very prideful moment, right?
Yes.
He's bragging, he's got the money, he's about to deposit it at the bank, and he picks up Potter's newspaper and accidentally drops the money in there when he folds it back up. That's a lesson too, isn't it? That he was bragging and being like, "Oh, look at that! You can't keep those Baileys down."
He was because he was excited because Harry's coming home. He's a World War II Medal of Honor winner.
But he was rubbing Potter's nose.
Yes, he was. Well, the pride goes before the fall. Is that what you're saying, David?
Yes. So that was a very interesting clip. So we've got another one. We're keeping this moving because we've got a lot of clips to play for you guys, and our producers had to narrow them down. I think we had like 20 some that we wanted in here, but we had to narrow them down. So the next one is very interesting. Is Daddy in trouble? When everybody starts praying, go ahead and play that. We'll come back and talk about it.
Bedford 247, please.
Is Daddy in trouble?
Yes, Pete.
Shall I pray for him?
Yes, Jenny, pray very hard.
Me too?
You too, Tommy. Hello? Uncle Billy?
Now, this is right after the outburst.
Which we didn't see, yes.
Which, from what we know, that was out of character for him.
Yes.
And so the pressure built and built and built of him being upset with Uncle Billy not finding the money and losing that, knowing that he could go to jail. He can't find it. He goes home to still a home in progress, right, that Mary's been working on, and so he's all frustrated, and then the kids are making noise. I found this to be very fascinating. The one kid's playing the piano, dun, 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 and the other one's making that noise on the floor with a toy, and then the other one's doing something else. All this chaos.
It's crescendos.
It built.
Yes.
Duke, go ahead.
I think that this movie psychologically captures despair. Not to repeat myself, but when you think about the fairy tale trope, despair becomes faith and hope. And isn't that the story of Christmas broadly, right? And so this descent into despair is life before Christ, isn't it? And what we get here is the same transformation.
Amen. Speaking of Christ, I think that's absolutely perfect, Duke. The movie opens in prayer. Because when she says, "Should we pray for Daddy?" that's what you hear in the beginning of the film. Prayer is peppered throughout the film. Mm-hmm. Prayer during VE Day, prayer during VJ Day. At the end, hark the herald angels sing, redemption between sinner and Christ. So this is very wonderful. Talk about Americana. It's Christian Americana that is woven into the film.
And another message, really subtle, is that they raise their kids right.
Yes.
Very respectful, very sensitive to, should we pray for Daddy? That's what they do. They pray for people. So the kids were the one that suggested that to their mom when the mom's on the phone ready to call for help. So let's go to the next clip. Now this one, Jake, I know you're going to have something to say about this because this is Jimmy Stewart playing. George is praying in the bar. He was very emotional.
Yeah.
And they shot this from a distance.
Yes.
And it was so good. They tried to zoom in and use a close-up shot of this. Watch this clip and we'll come back and we'll discuss.
Dear Father in heaven, I'm not a praying man, but if you're up there and you can hear me, show me the way. I'm at the end of my rope, right? Show me the way, oh God.
Yeah, that was a little hard to hear, but
it's interesting. A man who's praying saying, "I'm not a praying man," it really, Jimmy Stewart, the Presbyterian Jimmy Stewart, was a praying man. Read the scriptures all the time. Went through the hellacious experience of seeing many of his many pilots, many of the people on the B-24 that he was captain of die. Dealing with the dropping bombs on Nazi Germany, just a year or two earlier. Mm-hmm. He was going through a lot in his soul. He was struggling a lot. And at that moment, Capra knew he could sense that he was out of himself.
It was very authentic.
It was very. They didn't do a second take. That's what you're saying. They had to actually find a way of framing it through special technique to actually be able to see it properly.
Yeah, to me, that close-up is despair we were talking about a moment ago, but it's also, he looked to me like a drug addict or a somebody jonesing for a beer or an alcohol or an alcoholic. I mean, he was so in the moment that his suffering is projected in ways that I think even Capra was surprised by.
Well, he was at the end of himself. He knew that he could not do anything. Nobody could help him. He was at the end of his rope, really. And so what do you do when you're at the bottom? You look up.
You got to laugh, because then when they realize who he is and he gets punched, he says, that's what I get for praying.
Well, but when you're in the bottom, you either look up or you die. Right? And that's the suicide
and he wanted
angle.
to die, yes.
Right?
So later on, he tells Clarence, I got a punch in the mouth from a prayer. I said, oh, no, I'm the answer to your prayer.
Right.
Clarence the angel goes. So that's another message we misinterpret answers to prayer. We think, we pray and something bad happens. Well, thanks, God. But that wasn't the answer. God's got the answer somewhere else.
But our sovereign guy knows the end.
Okay,
yes,
so now, he's at the end of his rope. He gets punched. He checks his pocket to see he's got the insurance policy. He heads out of Martini's, and then he goes over the bridge where he's about to jump in the water and allegedly commit suicide. But then Clarence, the angel, was sent down. Let's watch this clip.
Ridiculous of you to think of killing yourself for money. $8,000.
Yeah, now just things like that. Now, how do you know that?
I told you I'm your guardian angel. I know everything about you.
Well, you look about like the kind of an angel I'd get. Sort of a fallen angel, aren't you? What happened to your wings?
I haven't won my wings yet. That's why I'm an angel second class.
And then right after that, I think he says he came down to help. He goes, don't happen to have $8,000? No, we don't. You don't use money in heaven. He goes, comes down real handy down here, bub. Remember that?
But it's amazing. We all raised with Christian families, and to think of like Michael and Gabriel, these great archangels. Along comes Clarence, who can't even swim. That's
it looks like about the kind of angel I'd get.
Yeah, but for me, I look at that scene, and the profound Christianity that underpins it is amazing. Here's a man who's going to take his life in despair. And so it's interesting that God sent the angel into the water, not to be next to him, because if Jimmy Stewart had not jumped into the water and saved the angel, he would not have saved himself. That here's a man who is at the verge of destroying himself, but his character and his Christianity is such, he forgets his own suicide to save somebody else's life.
Wow.
This transformation is stunning. On top of everything else, that the jump into the water was a perfect dive, which is brilliant. But again, the one thing that was bigger than his despair was the life of somebody else. And isn't that the story of Christ again?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a minute.
That's profound.
That is good.
Duke hit it spot on. Yeah.
That is good. So he was distracted from his own.
And I repeat, if he didn't jump in, and somebody as despairing as that might not have, because I'm going to join him, right, in a couple of minutes. But what redeemed him was the act of selflessness. And that justified the angel who's going to then help him, right? If he had not acted that way, you have to make a choice, right? And he made a good choice in that moment.
Okay, we have, let's see, the follow-up to that clip is shortly after, which in the movie, we'll watch this and talk about it when we come back.
I suppose it'd been better if I'd never been born at all.
What'd you say?
I said I wish I'd never been born.
Oh, you mustn't say things like that. Wait a minute. That's an idea. What do you think? Yeah, that'll do it. Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Well, if I wasn't born, who am I?
You're nobody. You have no identity.
Oh, what do you mean, no identity? My name's George Bailey.
There is no George Bailey. You have no papers, no cards, no driver's license, no 4F card, no insurance policy. They're not there either.
What?
Zuzu's petals. You've been given a great gift, George. A chance to see what the world would be like without you.
And that's a fascinating thought, I think, for all of us. If I weren't here, you know, what would my family look like? What have I done? But it's also a challenging thought. You know, would I have done good for the community? Would someone be missing me? You know?
You know, okay, this is a little personal. Never thought, I wasn't planning on saying this, but I went through very serious depression in my life. This would have been around the time I was teaching at a school in Phoenix, came home very depressed, and my brother sat me down at his house and made me watch It's a Wonderful Life. Serious.
Wow.
And I was dating my wife at the time. Our 40th wedding anniversary is coming up here soon. But anyways, the point is, his point was having me to see the major point of the film, that your life can affect so many other people. And what is life like if you're not a part of living life and being around those that love you and that you love? So God used this film to actually help me work through my own depression at that time.
So Jake tells an existential story about his own life. And what I think is existentially important about what we just saw there is when you kill yourself as an adult, you are insulting God by cutting off a life because you have no hope in him or the future. But what he does here, George Bailey, is even worse. He wants to go back retrospectively and cancel his whole life. This is one step more evil, or more just, perhaps you could say one step more despairing. Because it's one thing to take the life that God gave you to end it. Then he wants to go back and actually prevent God from bringing him into the world. And do you see, that's a much greater insult to God.
Wow.
And so it takes a tremendous shift there. And I think that is the lowest point of the whole story. It's one thing to kill your life that God gave you, but to go back and lecture God that I
shouldn't have been born.
Yeah, that's something else. It really is.
You know, this guy should be a theologian.
Well, the movie is very theological, isn't it?
Yes. It is, from the get-go, yes.
Very similar to Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes.
You know, and the three ghosts and showing him his past. And in Scrooge's case, it was a little different. But yeah, very similar.
Let me insert something here, too.
Absolutely.
And this is a bit of a side thing. Is it just me? But some of the charm of the movie goes away in color. It's beautiful. The color is beautiful. It's very appropriate for a show like that. You get to see clearer images. But that aura of fairy tale and mystery, I think it's better in the black and white.
I love the black and white.
Yeah.
And by the way, when they brought it to the theater, was it for the 75th anniversary?
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater.
Wow.
Black and white. And it's just so amazing. You're used to seeing it, if you're like me, every year, several times, if you're like me, on television or on whatever, YouTube. And now you go to the theater and you pick up some different elements that you really didn't notice before on the big screen. So that was amazing. That was 5 years ago, roughly?
Duke, I understand what you're saying. As being a history teacher, American history, wanting to get things the way they were seen originally. But there's something to me, just like this studio here. Look at how beautiful in color it is.
It is, yeah.
You feel like we're in the midst of the snowstorm that hits Wisconsin this time of year, if you know what I'm saying. But the point is, when my wife and I just watched this the other night. Okay, we didn't do the DVD. We did it on television, on Netflix or whatever, in black and white. And I enjoyed it, but I like it in color. I like seeing the color of his suit. I like seeing the color of maybe the dresses. The color part of it is, that's how life was seen in 1946. It was in color. But life isn't lived in black and white.
I would argue that your argument is wonderful, but it's technical. You're talking technically.
Technicolor.
I'm talking about mood. I'm talking about the ethos of the movie. I think you're exactly right. I prefer generally color to black and white.
Yeah.
But when you're telling a story like this is a morality a morality play. This story, and I think why I like the black and white is because the issues he's dealing with are black and white, morally and spiritually. He moves between absolute faith to absolute darkness, and I think it's like I like noir movies.
Black and white.
Yes, for the mood, for the grit of it. And so you're right technically, but I think when you think about this kind of a movie, from my perspective, I think that mood is best shadowed by the black and white.
If you would have said, let's say, Alistair Sim in A Christmas Carol, which I have and which we watch.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
Goodness.
Black and white.
That is one of the best.
It's London. It's dark.
Yep.
It's cold. But the whole film has that feel throughout it. Whereas it's a wonderful life. Life is full of cinema color. It's full of beauty. It's full of what we're seeing here. And I would accept it in Alistair Sim's A Christmas Carol, but in this, the color, I love the color.
But I get that, but I would think, from what you just said, it would be interesting to have the black and white, like the Wizard of Oz, until the moment it brightens.
Yes.
Because there's not a lot of brightness in the first part of the movie.
This is quick aside, real quick.
Okay.
But we never had a color TV when I was a kid, so I didn't know it went from black and white into color until I went to the neighbor's house where they were rich. They had a color TV, and all of a sudden I'm the only kid going, it turned to color. I didn't know it.
You know what would have been interesting? For it to start off black and white.
Yeah.
And then change to color. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It start off in color, and then when he goes back to when he was not born, that's black and white.
Darker and darker.
And then when he comes back at the end, color.
It's the best of both worlds.
There you go.
There we go. So we got three different perspectives on this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about another clip, and this is still during that time when Clarence is taking him through the life that didn't exist, meaning George Bailey was never born, and all the people that he would have impacted. His brother was one he saved when his brother was 9 years old. So George sees the gravestone of his brother who he couldn't save when he fell into the freezing water when they were playing and sledding out there when they were kids, because George was never born.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Make sure you look at the dates at the tombstone, because he only could have been 8 years old on the tombstone instead of 9.
I thought about that. Go ahead.
Are you sure this is Bailey Park?
No, I'm not sure of anything anymore. All I know is this should be Bailey Park. But where are the houses?
You weren't here to build them. Your brother, Harry Bailey, broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9.
That's a lie. Harry Bailey went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry. You see, George, you really had a wonderful life.
Wow. That is something.
Yeah, it's not only his brother, but then the men that Harry saved when he was in the war.
Yeah, this is one of those moments of deep psychology again, and it's fairy tale psychology. He must have, as a young man, I would have been, if I had to stay home from the war and my brother had to go and he died and I stayed home. So what he's talking about, if you had canceled your life out, you would not have saved your brother's life so that he could save the lives of others. In other words, that this is giving him back that, right? The angel's reminding him subtly, right? Yes, he died perhaps in your place in the war, but you saved him. And that's what happened with the angel as well. And so these themes keep rolling through.
But you can see why George is disappointed, though. I mean, in life, in some ways, because look at his dreams at the beginning
his dream
of the film.
was to get out
He's
and
going
see the
here,
world.
and he's got the National Geographic, and
All
he's
the maps.
telling Mary when she was little, by the soda fountain, I'm going here and I'm going there, and I'm going to see the world. I'm going to build this and build that. And he was never able to accomplish that. So he was struggling with that for a big segment of his life. And it's very interesting. There were a lot of people around him who were very self-centered and about what they were going to do. I mean, you got to love Harry, his brother, but Harry, when he comes home and
he's already married.
He's married, and I was going to tell you about that. It's like, once again, George gets shafted. He gets,
But I've always felt in this movie that there's something odd between the marriage of George and his wife, Donna Reed's character, right?
Mary.
Yeah, Mary. I mean, they don't. She doesn't seem to have. There's not that closeness between them where she seems to be able to help him in a way.
Did you see that kissing scene? That was pretty close.
No, I did. I agree with that. But what I guess what I'm trying to say is, all through the movie, the more people are around George, the more alone he is. And that includes his family to some degree. But that's part of the despair, right? He walks through life surrounded by people. People love him. Even at the worst, they love him. But he seems to be very isolated. And I think Capra's made a great decision there, right? Here's another answer. You could have everything else in the movie be color, but it's always a cloud over George, right?
But you do know Mary adored him since she was a little girl.
But she couldn't reach him. I mean, she couldn't staunch that. And nothing could staunch it, right? And so he's a man walking under a cloud. And so I think that's one of the wonders of the story. You almost get lost in his performance to the degree that you ignore. The first time you watch it, I had seen all those clips. Never watched it. The first time I watched it, I forgot everything else just to watch him. Yeah. And you got to go back and watch it a couple of times to see the context.
Yeah. Another really good scene was when Harry just came home. He brought his wife, who, George didn't know if he was married. Right after they made the announcement, and his wife blurted out and said, "Well, he's going to come and work for my dad." Right. And then Harry goes to get the bags. The wife goes along with Uncle Billy. And George is alone there on the train right when the train got off, and the close up on him, and you see it in his face. That was an amazing moment for him of realization that I'm done. I'm never leaving.
Because at that point, I forget the exact chronological. I think he might have been either 22 or 26 years old, and he's thinking, I'm never going to leave Bedford Falls.
Well, right? He put Harry through school. He helped put Harry
4 years.
Through school.
Yeah. By the way, I wish we would have had the scene of the dancing in 1928 to the Charleston.
Oh, yeah, the Charleston.
And that pool, the swimming pool that opens up, which really was a swimming pool at Beverly Hills High School.
Underneath the gymnasium floor.
Yes, and it's still there to this day.
And that was George's idea, I guess.
Yes.
Save the school money. Another building.
And wasn't there a character from Little Rascals that was
Alfalfa?
Alfalfa, yeah.
He was the one that was annoying Mary before George
He was jealous, yes.
Yep. Okay, so we've got another clip, and this is at the end when everyone's bringing cash in. All they heard, they knew that George was in trouble. They knew that they needed help. They didn't ask questions. Uncle Billy comes in with this big basket of money, and the war hero comes into town, and this is one of the end scenes. Go ahead.
Come in, Uncle Billy. Everybody in here.
George! Isn't it wonderful? So many friends. Mary did it, George. Mary did it. She told some people you were in trouble, and they scattered all over town collecting money. Didn't ask any question, just said George in trouble. Count me idiots.
What is this?
Another
run on the bank? Here, George. Merry Christmas.
Now, don't push. There we are. The line forms on the right.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast. To my big brother, George, the richest man in town.
Just seeing that in color.
Yeah, that was really nice at the end.
He comes in, it's been snowing out. All the townspeople are coming in. They're contributing to get him out of debt.
Well,
right?
Interesting now, Potter is the richest man anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that his reaction when to my big brother, the richest man in town, and he's still after all that he went through, he's still taking it all in, right? I mean, he lost $8,000, or his brother Billy did. Uncle Billy, right? Lost the money, and so he goes through this experience with Clarence, and he comes home, just thankful to be home with his wife and kids, and then everyone's bringing in this money. He's going to have enough to pay, what they
enough. Mr. Hee-Haw, his buddy,
Sam Wainwright.
Yeah, Sam Wainwright. $25,000 back then was over $500,000. So he's got no problem.
If he
is the richest man in town.
I wouldn't think he took it all, but
well, it is a fairy tale ending, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's interesting that the angel initially told him, "We don't deal with money. I don't have $8,000," and the resolution is money. I always that's one little thing that stuck in my craw a little bit about the movie. I love the end of it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And it's magical the way it happens, and you can see at the end of it, it's the kind of transformation. And what Capra did in moving the character through the movie, by the time you get to the end, you realize that it's the character that has changed, and the money is just a deus, right? A god in the machine at the end. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Sorry, Doc. I'm not getting it exactly here because money is a part of life. It's a part of existence. It's how we eat. It's how we heat our homes in the wintertime. He was going to kill himself because he was going bankrupt.
Right.
And so I'm not trying to disrespect what you're saying, but I'm saying, but it's still a part of living life, and the problem was solved supernaturally, but the problem was solved.
But it's not bigger than your God, right?
No, of course
and
not.
So what I'm trying to saying is, again, existentially, when you step back from the movie, it seems to be a money. You could see it's a money problem from beginning to end. And if I will say this, if George Bailey was going to successfully kill himself over money, that seems like a little bit mammon, right, to some degree.
I get it. Yeah.
And so I think that George was putting too much faith in money. Well, think about the first time he talked to the angel. You got no money, then you're right. He bet that. So it seems to me that when you look at it, George's problem was a problem of money.
Well, he was a banker.
Well, of course. But when you're talking
building and loan, technically.
Okay, fair enough.
So when you're talking to an angel, he's telling the angel the same thing, and that big basket of cash at the end is on the level of of storytelling, to me, problematic, but morally not. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, it really shows the heart of the people of the town, how much they absolutely adored George Bailey. And I think it's wonderful that they picked the song "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," because that is the story of Christmas.
Yeah.
Christ and sinner reconciled.
Yeah.
You've got to love that.
And couldn't you make the argument, though, that all that money being brought to him by people who love him more than they love money? That's a lesson for him. I mean, he's even at that last scene. He's been taught that lesson, right? Here it is. It's all we have. It's all yours now. Yeah. Because that's never been why we loved George Bailey, right?
Even Martini comes in. I busted the jukebox stew.
Oh, I knew you'd get your Italian thing in there.
I busted the jukebox stew. Here's the money. So many great scenes, so many great lines. We didn't talk about the snow. I think It's a Wonderful Life was one of the first films that had soft, quiet, authentic falling snow, because up until that time, from what I've read, they used many different things, but in a lot of movies, cornflakes painted, or I don't know if they're spray painted white.
Yep, they were.
And so they were crunchy if you walked on them. So that would have been a problem through
quiet on the set.
All the outsides.
Yes.
Walking through crunchy snowflakes, and that doesn't sound like snow to me.
And they also used cotton that was painted, and cotton caused a lot of problems when it came to heat, and it disrupted the scene in many cases.
And coconut.
Right.
Oh, and another thing, in fact, I just saw a special on this, and there were like 20 movies. It's a Wonderful Life was the number one Christmas movie of all time.
All right.
They went through all the lists. But anyway, so what was I? The snow.
Remember, they won an Oscar for
when
this.
they were filming it. They filmed it in California.
Yes.
And it was in the 90s in some cases, and they were all dressed in winter clothes, sweating, and they said if you look close, sometimes you can see the wet ring around some of their collars, and they had to take a break one day, and just because it was so hot, Mary, on one long scene, she was almost fainted, but you could never tell watching that. They sell winter.
Yeah, they really do because of that.
And this is where it goes back to an earlier conversation. The snow is diminished in the color. And when I loved it, because the starkness of the snow against the darkness of the palette, that snow was in some scenes, the only light in the scene. And for me, I think that probably connected why I like the black and white better, because of the snow. It was so brilliant in that dark world. To me, some of the even in the scenes that we have here, right? I mean, look at the darker one and look at the lighter one. It's amazing when you think about it.
Duke, I love you, but I have to disagree, because the moment I leave here and if it's snowing in the beautiful state of Wisconsin, I don't see it in black and white. I see it in God's beautiful color.
Yeah. I wish the skies were blue when it snowed, but they're gray. So it's magical. It's romantic. Think about people that just can't relate. They were never raised in the Midwest or in the East Coast. They're raised down south, and they don't know what a white Christmas is. Hence the song "I'm Dreaming" of a white Christmas. There's something about snow and family and wintertime and movies, classic movies like this. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. Just any final thoughts, Dr. Duke, on the season, on the movie?
I mean, to me, and this is personal, the only media that moves me more than this movie is the Charlie Brown Christmas. I mean, they're not movies. One's not a movie. I get it.
Yeah.
The only Christmas story in media that I cherish more than this movie would be that.
I'm kind of shocked. I mean, I look at you. I know you love Peanuts and Snoopy and Schultz and all, and I do too. But not to mention A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Some of the classic Christmas carols that are out there could be George C. Scott or Alistair Sim. And knowing your background in literature, English literature, to not bring up Dickens, I'm a little surprised.
But you're giving me credit for depth, and then you're denying my argument. What I would suggest about Peanuts is that moment when Linus stands up and recites the Gospel of Luke, drops his security blanket, because in Christ was his strength. The one thing that makes him drop his security blanket. And to me, there's no more that does it. It breaks my heart every time.
When Tiny Tim says, "God bless us, everyone," come on, that beats Linus.
But I want to go back to that scene that he was just describing, Dr. Duke was just describing in Peanuts. Did you notice when he dropped his blanket, that's when he said, "Fear not."
Fear not.
He clung to that blanket as a pacifier, and as he dropped it, "Fear not." And what's the rest of it? "I bring you tidings
of great joy."
And
remember, in the Peanut special, it was total darkness. The commercial Christmas with the tin Christmas trees and everybody fighting over gifts and Snoopy putting lights on trees.
Are you going back to black and white and color again?
Absolutely.
Holy cow, Ebenezer.
Psychological black and white. Yeah.
So Duke found a way to work in the Peanuts and talk about the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Look at that's what I'm saying. And I love Peanuts.
On his laptop. By the way, on his car, if you see him around town, if you live in Northeast Wisconsin, I love it. So, Jake, any final thoughts on "It's a Wonderful Life"?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Best Christmas
I
movie?
will do to the best of my ability. I end up giving chances to speak to a lot of young people. I drop the movie. I suggest the movie as much as I can, because I would love the younger generation, young folk out there, to be able to see it and learn the lessons that Duke and you have so profoundly expressed.
It's hard to understand time before the internet and iPhones and technology that we have. And that's one of the perfect movies at Christmas time that you watch, you go, wow, very simple, hard work, and these ethics, the work ethic and things like that, these younger generations cannot relate to anymore.
Yep.
But we're going to wrap it up, friends. Merry Christmas, gentlemen.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And make sure if you watch it in color. Right here, in color.
All right, and I have the DVD at home. Actually, I have two different DVDs. All right. Well, time really flies when you're sharing memories of a Christmas classic. So I want to thank Dr. Duke Pesta, Dr. Jake Jacobs for joining me in this wonderful conversation about a film, just to me, one of the best of all time, but it's meant so much to a lot of people. And I hope to you and your family as well. If you have not watched it, please watch it and let us know what you think. Contact us here at Freedom Project. And for all of us here, we want to wish you and your family a very meaningful and Merry Christmas. May your homes be filled with peace, joy, and the warmth that only this season can bring. And above all, may we never forget the true reason we celebrate, the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the greatest gift ever given. And as we wrap up, it feels only fitting to leave you with just one more little clip, one of the beloved lines from It's a Wonderful Life, and I pray that this continues to echo through generations. Merry Christmas to all of you. God bless you.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right.
Attaboy, Clarence.